my wife and I, as our kids got back into school, we decided that we were going to try to start something. And so we, would work out off and on because, I mean, you don't get a body like this overnight. And so we decided, you know what, the kids are going back to school. We're going to try and do a little different routine. And so we're going to wake up every morning and work out together. Well, not together. We'll wake up at 4:30 and, 4:30. And so we're going to wake up at 4:30 and she does this little video thing on there where the people yell at her and she likes it. I don't understand. And I will get out and hit the pavement and go run. And so, I've been using the Nike Plus app, and it's been cool because then, Kevin Hart, the comedian, he'll, cheer me on. And sometimes I'm just like, shut up, Kevin Hart, I don't like you. But I'm out there running, doing my thing. But one of the things we realize is that we can't just simply work out. That's not going to be the end-all, be-all to our fitness journey to be ripped. And so we know that we have to change our food and our habits. And so we started doing that, and I'll tell you what, it's been miserable. There's nothing, all you people are like, no, it's not food, it's fuel. There's a special place. You are a different kind of people. I don't get it, because right now, all I've been craving is a double cheeseburger. Now, I'm not talking go through the drive-thru at Wendy's, get a double cheeseburger. I'm talking about go to a gourmet place and 2 patties the size of my face with bacon, because it's not a real sandwich without bacon. Sorry, PETA people. And and smothered in 85 different kinds of cheeses, and get it, and then get the defibrillator paddles and bring me back to life, and I'll be happy. That's what I want. But one of the things that, I'm not a real big sweets guy, but how many of you guys, show of hands, love ice cream? Yeah? All right, you're my people. If you're not raising your hand, it may be because you're lactose intolerant, that's fine. Take some Lactaid and join the party, all right? And you're like, no, you don't know what it does to me. And I'm like, oh, we all know. And so I figured, since I have not had an ice cream sundae recently, that I figured I would share in this enjoyment. And what I love, who are my strawberry people at? You like strawberry? All right, you're better than everyone else. And so that's just, you heard it here first. If you're sad about that, you can choose strawberry ice cream. You too have that free will choice. And so we'll get some ice cream out, and that's looking good. Gosh, this is going to be so messy. And so we got our ice cream going on, but what ice cream is not good just on its own. What kind of stuff do we need? You need some toppings. That's what I'm talking about. We're kindred spirits. The first thing, what would you put on your ice cream? Chocolate syrup, and we just put it on there. We make it. Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. I just got some on my shoe. Oh no. And so, what else do we need on? We'll get that. They're my shoes. Not from the bottom, from the top. I do what I want. And so, what else do we need? Whip. I like where you're at. Whipped cream. If I can get this off. Hey, chill out. All right, so we'll get some whipped cream. We'll do it. My inner fat kid is so happy right now. I'm just like, okay. Don't tell my wife who's sitting right there. We do need some more stuff, though. What would you have on an ice cream sundae? Spring. That's all y'all that said cherry, that's at the end. And so we'll get some sprinkles. We'll even throw some sprinkles out there for y'all. Somebody's so mad at me right now. Mainly the ushers who have to vacuum that up. And so those of you guys who said, all right, now we're getting there. We got to have the cherry or cherries. We'll just do a bunch of them on there. It's cherries too. Step off. That's my wife. I can say that. It's our anniversary today. So thank you. 12 years married, 14 years she has put up with this. So that's all for her. You put the cherries on top. So if I made this sundae, how many of you guys right now, you would be pumped? If I said, Harry, you can have this. How many of you guys would want to eat this right now? Yeah? So quite a few of you guys. But we're leaving off one topping that would really help this out. What? What's wrong? What's wrong? You did one more? Okay, we'll get some more. Some of y'all got real mad. You're like, he just did that. Here's the thing. That Sunday was good right before. A bunch of y'all are like, oh, I want that. I want, give me the Sunday. And then as soon as I did that, y'all like, no, you didn't. That's messed up. But here's the thing. You and I do this every single day. Every single day in life, we choose. You're like, I don't put ketchup on my ice cream. I don't know what you're talking about. Here's the thing. In life, God has created us in such a beautiful way where we are unique, we are beautiful on the inside and out. And day after day, we choose to add things to the mix of our life that do not belong and that wreck what God designed. And it leaves us in a state where we just go, and sometimes we do it by our own choosing. Sometimes there are circumstances that happen that are outside of our control, but that it messes it up, and then we just sit there and we just go, I just don't know what to do. How in the world did this happen? Well, sometimes we know how it happened because we invited it in. And other people tell us, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do whatever, and then all of a sudden we go, no, I can do it, I can handle it on my own. Or I won't let it get the best of me. Or I know what I'm doing. And then it gets in the mix and we just like, and then shame, guilt, regret, hurt, pain, all these things begin to overwhelmingly mount. And this is why last week we jumped into the premise, because we can believe this about ourselves and we need to know what is true. As we said it this way in our takeaway last week, the first step towards new life in this series, The New You, is believing there is something worth making new. And if you've never heard this before, you are worth it. And that's where our whole message last week is looking through the lens of God and saying, you are uniquely made in the image of God, that you are worth it. And yet somehow, some way, we keep introducing these things that wreck what God designed. And then we step back and scratch our head and go, why did it get like this? How did it get like this? Well, we want to walk through today and what it looks like to maintain and foster and cultivate a unity in our own life with God, but also a unity with those around us in such a way that we have beautiful community with God and others, so that as we move through life, we're honoring him and how he designed us, because we've introduced these things and he wants to make us new. And we're looking at this book in the Bible called Ephesians. It was written by a guy named Paul, and he wrote it to the church at Ephesus. And Paul was a guy who went around and planted and started churches, much like Forefront, although they didn't have screens and stuff like that because it was thousands of years ago. But they would start churches and move around, and he would write letters back to these churches and help them get connected. Sometimes it was encouragement, like, you guys are doing awesome, and other times it's like, hey, like a kind of like a spiritual father, like, hey, I love you guys, and I'm so thankful for you, but like, you're going down this road, and I know you don't want to hear this, and you guys might actually even get upset with me, but the direction you're going isn't okay, and I want to point you back to what is true. And if you have a Bible, I'd love for you to turn over to Ephesians chapter 4 is where we're going to be, Ephesians chapter 4. If you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free, like we mentioned earlier, at the lobby, Get Connected table. Just stop by there and pick up a Bible. It's free. There's no catch. That's your Bible. Bring your new Bible back, highlight it, write in it, whatever you need to do to connect with the passages. You can download a Bible app. If you're more tech savvy in that regard and you like that sort of thing, you could download the Bible app. Or one of our favorites is you could go to your app store, search, Windows users, but Android and iOS users, you can go to your app store, search for Forefront Church app, and that has all sorts of things from video messages to podcasts to notes and all types of things to connect with the message. Because we want to make sure that your faith and your engagement isn't something that's a fleeting thing for an hour and change that we're together each week, but that it's something that you're able to connect with on a daily basis. Because I know anything that we do on a regular basis then becomes a habit, and it's something, a part of who we are and what we do. And so we hope that you continue to do that and continue to dig in to that. And so we're catching up with Paul in Ephesians chapter 4, and Paul actually is writing to that church at Ephesus. That's where we get Ephesians, the Ephesian people. He's writing to them from prison. Now, you might be like, Jason, I thought you just said this guy planted churches and he's in prison. I don't really understand. He was actually thrown in prison because he was telling people about Jesus. And they were like, we don't really like that, and so we're going to throw you into jail, throw away the key, that type thing. And so if you've ever thought, like, I've been persecuted because of my faith or whatever, like, how many of you have been in jail for Jesus? And then you'd be like, crickets, exactly. And so, like, not only that, like, he was beaten and hurt and shipwrecked and all this stuff because he was following God. And he's the poster child of screw-ups, and God used him. And so if you're like, I'm a screw-up, God can't use me, Paul would be like, well, actually, I'm like that guy, and he uses me, so he could definitely use you. And so we pick up with him writing from prison to the church that he helped start in chapter 4, starting in verse 1. It says, as a prisoner of the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And so he's talking to the people of the church who have made a decision to follow God, that they're following him, that they're trusting in him, that their life is being transformed, that they've decided to get baptized. You know, we see these videos and you see this live. Sometimes we use the horse trough here. Sometimes people do it at the beach where they say, I want my life to be forever changed by God. And so they accept his gift and are baptized. And so he's walking through believers in this. And he says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. And so maybe as we read through that, if you say you follow Jesus, could those words be said of you? Because God wants a healthy and full life, and he wants us to not introduce these things. And he's saying, if you want your life to look healthy and complete, it'll look like this. He continues on in verse 3, Paul writes, he says, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. It's like, listen, be together, be peaceful, get along. You know, how many times have you had a friend and all of a sudden, like, something rises up and you guys just butt heads and you fight and you do whatever? He's like, listen, if you follow Jesus, you're going to learn how to figure out a way to be peaceful with people, even if they just get on your nerves. You know, if you've ever been like, you know, and don't raise your hand, and definitely don't elbow that person right now, like, I live with the person. Don't do that. You'll be sleeping on the couch. Make every effort to keep unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Verse 4, there is one body. It's talking about this, that the church is a family, is the body, in one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, speaking of Jesus, one faith, one baptism. It's pointing them back. It's taking a funnel of all the things they might be going off the rails with and channeling it back in to what is true. Instead of letting all this stuff get in, let's tell you what is true about you and about God's church. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. What Paul's writing to these guys is saying, listen, I know that life is chaotic. I know that life is crazy. I know it can be bonkers. I know you're chasing around your kids and you're on the Israeli Twitter like hashtag what in the world, and you're running around like we have all these things we have to do and places we have to go and things, and just life gets nutty. Here, and Paul's saying, I know that you're going to have hurt, you're going to have pain. I know that what God wanted for you and what is true, that things keep getting introduced, whether by your choices or things that just simply happen, and it's chaotic and you don't know how to handle it. And so let me focus you back in on unity with God and with others. Because here's what we know for a fact, is that life will begin to turn on us when we least expect it. I have a picture of a church up in Charlottesville. This is Cherry Avenue Christian Church. It's a fairly traditional church. It's actually kind of like what our building looked like before we painted it and did crazy stuff on the inside and all that. And in Charlottesville, in 2001, we drove back down through here and we met up with 45 other youth pastors from across the state. I did student ministry for 10 years, and so we go and we planned conferences for thousands of kids where they would hear about God and have amazing worship bands and comedians and, you know, illusionists, whatever, like all this stuff to help them just explore the fact that how amazing God is. And so we all drove to Charlottesville. We're meeting there at Cherry Avenue, and it's in their big gymnasium. And so we're having fun, we're talking. A couple of them are kind of, just goofing off a little bit before the meeting gets rolling. They're shooting hoops in the gym and all that. We finally gather together and we begin to go through the intro process. And then all of a sudden, phones start just ringing everywhere. Everybody's phone starts going off. And everybody's picking up. You could see just the glazed over look on people's faces. Because something had been introduced that was not a part of the design. And everybody's saying, we got to find a TV, got to find a TV. So we go to this utility closet, we pull out, we didn't have flat screens back then, we had a little black and white 15-inch TV that we plug in the very corner of the gym. We get it hooked up to the cable. We were adjusting the antenna, trying to get as best a reception as we could with everything, and there's like 45 youth guys from all over the state that are huddled around a TV as they're getting these phone calls that this is unfolding before
them. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words on the prophets are written on the subway walls, in tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence.
As the phones were going off and everybody's parting ways, guys from DC who were getting word that their people were there at the Pentagon, and people checking in with families and seeing what's going on. And as we're driving back, we're getting in the car, we're hustling back to Virginia Beach, and you could just see like the looks on people's faces. We're driving and rushing back. And I get a call from my mom, and she's like, Jason, I just want to let you know your dad's okay. And I'm like, what do you mean dad's okay? She's like, well, he's working on a ship on the other side of the bay. They're in New York, and they were there, and they were going to go and got in a car and drove over to the towers, but it was just things were crazy and traffic was too busy, and so they decided to go back. Just want to let you know. And I'm like, what in the world? And you kind of process all these things because everything seemed like before that moment, like right now we have ninth graders going into school who are going to be learning about this in history that never were alive when it happened. But for many of us, we can remember what life was like before that, at airports, at sporting events, at malls. And everything began to change because something was introduced that wasn't supposed to be there, and it wrecks our worldview, and we start asking questions and frustration and why, and we shake our fist at the sky. God, why didn't you change us? Why couldn't you do this? And it doesn't just simply happen in world events. It happens all the time on a smaller scale in your life and in mine, where something happens that's toxic. Whether we brought it into our life or it's something that simply happened to us. And we wonder, and we have this innate question of, why is this happening? Why can't I feel better? Is there ever a way? And all these hurts and pains and shame and guilt and doubt and all of this stuff that we're trying to process. We're asking God, how do I make myself whole? How do I get some footing? How do I get my feet on solid ground? See, well, Paul continues to talk to the people at the church at Ephesus as he's writing from prison. And he wants to share with them what can be in the middle of the mess so they can be made new. He continues on in verse 14. He says, then as you're walking through these events, as you're walking through these things, as you hold to God, if you have unity with God and unity with other believers, you will no longer be infants tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching, by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheme. Basically saying that not only can there be things out there that kind of shake you from your belief and from your faith, but also that, and again, we talked about this last week, that we believe that God is real and Satan's real and that there are angels and that there are demons and that Satan's number one goal is to uproot you from believing what is true. So listen, if you stand strong, he will not uproot you. Instead, speaking the truth in love in your life and in mine, we will grow to become in every respect a mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. Saying Jesus is the one who leads us, that guides us, that directs us. From him, the whole body joined together by every supporting ligament grows and builds itself up in love as each part, you and I, as each part of us does its work. You see, when we want to have new life and be made whole and be made new, it's not just simply about knowing that we have worth, like we talked about last week. That is a component of it. But at some point, you and I have to take another step towards what is true, because we know that the destination doesn't just happen and we don't get teleported there. It's not like when we were kids and we would fall asleep and then all of a sudden we woke up in a bed. When we were in the living room. That's not the way that it works. There is a step towards God, that God is a free gift that he moves and breathes, but we take these steps towards him. But for you and I, sometimes it feels like we take, like Paul Abdul, we take 2 steps, one step forward, we take 2 steps back. That we continue to move back, and we're like, gosh, I'm trying to make progress, but I can't seem to do it. In this week's takeaway, if you don't get anything else, I pray that you get this, is that the new you will be the best you, the version that God wants before all of the stuff got poured into your life and my life, sometimes because of what we do, sometimes because of things around us. The new you will be the best you when you process through a God-shaped lens with others, not in a vacuum, not by yourself. Now, you can be anonymous and not connect with anybody and come here like a few minutes late or 30 minutes late. I see you guys, some of you. And you come, and then like right as service gets done, you roll out, you go to your car, and you're like, I got my Jesus. And like, I'm thankful that you're a part of what's happening. But if you want a new, what God designed you and I to be, he wants us to not be anonymous and to engage through a God-shaped lens, our worldview, when everything gets poured in that we know we don't need, and we're trying and scrambling to get it out, and it feels so difficult, to focus on him and process it with others, because life connected to life is where we will see things change. There's a pastor, Levi Lusko, who wrote this amazing book, and I think to help with what I'm about to share with you, it helps to give a little backstory. You see, he and his wife were planning a very successful church, and they were moving through things, but they had a daughter that fell ill, and she died. She was in her elementary age, right around like 7, 8 years old. She died, and it wrecked them. And they didn't know what to do. They're like, should we even lead this church anymore? Should we just go find other jobs and just be able, because like everybody was wanting to pull from them, and they weren't sure what to do, which gives I cannot imagine losing a child like that after you've ran with them and taught them things and learned with them. And this is what Levi shared in his book, Through the Eyes of a Lion. He said, it is also crucial that you don't wait for a crisis before you get the sorts of rhythms in place. These things where you're connected, unity with God, unity with others. You must train for the trial you're not yet in. And I love it where he says, the worst time to try to get ready for a marathon is when you're running one. Be like, I guess this is a good time to get ready for it. No. It says he's saying he and his family made a decision to plant ourselves in the house of the Lord, this community of people, a church, and before the bottom dropped out. And as a result, we had the root systems in place when we needed them the most. When I encounter people that walk through the door, it's usually when all the bottom dropped out has already happened. They're like, help me pick up the pieces, and I'm thankful, and our staff is thankful, our volunteers are thankful. But what I'd love to do is find Doc Brown in the DeLorean and get in it and go back a year and a half, 2 years, and hang out with them and say, hey, you're going to walk through the doors here in a year, 2 years. What I want to do is you need to walk through the door right now and encounter God's love and God's grace and set the groundwork now, because something's about to happen in your life that is going to knock you off your feet. And it is going to leave you crippled, and you're going to wonder why. And we want to lay the groundwork now before it ever happens, because once it gets introduced, feels virtually impossible to get that stuff out. Love what some of the people here asked them just kind of share a little bit. See, I thought I had it all figured out, that I could do it all by myself, that and be there for everybody else when I went to a very dark time, felt completely lost and didn't know why. My life felt like it was falling apart. At my darkest moment, I decided to reach out to a friend who asked me to come to a small group with them. And as reluctant as I was, I came that day and my life was changed. I realized that I didn't have to have it all figured out. I didn't have to have it all make sense. And you see, 2 years later, I'm so much more at peace, and things are starting to finally fall into place like I never thought they would. I needed reminding that I have a group of people that actually care about me and that reach out to me and remind me that they are there when I'm at my best, and then to help pull me back when I am at my worst. Another person shared, to live life with people brings a connection most do not have the pleasure of experiencing. Another one shared, it's like love without strings, being a part of my forefront family and small group. It says, okay, how's the small group impacted me? After fighting the introverted side of me that wanted to pull out and say, it's okay to not go to a small group. I'm introverted. That's my excuse. Deal with it, whatever. Well, I'm lost when it comes to the Bible. Being in a small group really helps me to understand messages and passages through a study. However, that not only helps me to have a better understanding, but also I get a view from how others see it, and a lot of times they see it way different and better than I would. They help me with life, all caps. Not ever feeling like I'm the only one who struggles, being able to share my struggles, gaining words and wisdom and advice from others who have also been there in the same and similar situations, meeting people, coming together as a family, doing life together, learning together, eating together, hanging out together, holding each other accountable, crying together, and just flat out showing love to one another. Sometimes the love will manifest itself in a hug. Other times it needs to be a smack on the wrist, and I need it, because that is what friends do. And I could go on and on with some of these. See, at Forefront Church, we want to be about being together, because being together honors God. being together with other people, not just in this and being anonymous, being together with other people and sharing life together and doing this. And I know that might sound convoluted, but it's simply sitting around, opening up life, making a few friends, talking about the Bible, and saying, hey, I'm dealing with this. I need to be transparent. I don't know how to deal with this. This is hard. And they go, hey, we're going to help you walk through it. Here's the good side of those things, and here's the things that might have to change. Being together fosters compassion. When you hear about somebody else going through something, you go, oh my gosh, like our hearts break for the other person. How can I help you in your family, in your extended family? What can we do to move into life with you? But here's what I love about small groups and being a part of community like this is when that stuff drops, people jump in with meals and childcare and hugs and shoulders to cry on and all of these things that I love wherever you happen to be working. And some of your coworkers may do that, but it is few and far between the relationships that are built, like when they are built and we are following in unity with God and unity with others. It also means being receptive when sometimes we might be going off the rails and those unified people go, we love you, but you're kind of going off the rails. The temptation is to be like, whatever, but the hope is being together brings loving relationships. That you can see in a loving relationship that sometimes it's like a parent-child relationship where it's like, hey, I love you, you're awesome, whatever, high five, encouragement. And other times it's like, hey, I love you, fist bump. All right, what is wrong with you? And be like, what? You're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to be loving. We're supposed to be kind. That is love. No one would say, because my kids do really dumb things, that me punishing them, you don't love your kids. No, I do love them. Which is why I guide them in a direction even when they don't want to. And it's the same way with community. You see here, and I was writing stuff down, is that life is, whoa, almost fell there. Never know what's going to happen. Life is messy. The fingerprints of God often aren't visible until you look at them in the rear view. As God is working, is using people, and he's using these things to open up your life. And my prayer for you and I is that we would embrace the fact that life is messy and that stuff is going to happen. And you're going to have mountaintop experiences, and then you're also going to be super dumb at times. And I know none of us want to hear that. Like, none of us want to be like, I would never do anything dumb. You're human. Like, let's get transparent and just say, I'm not going to be 100% awesome all the time. Some of you come close, all right? We get it. A lot of us, I'll speak for it, like we don't, okay? And so for in those moments that we don't, we need other people, which is why I love, Dan Pollard, he heads up our entire small groups ministry. And my hope for you is that you've put it up, like, I ain't going to nobody's living room. You can't make me do that. I can't make you do anything. But here's what I do know. When that bottom does drop out, where are you going? What are you doing? Because my hope is that you have a net well in advance in unity with God and in unity with others, because when life is messy, that we're going to dig into some of that. We're going to say, all right, God, I want to follow you. I want to trust you. Or we would say this about new life, is that the new you will be the best you when you process through this God-shaped lens with others. Life connected to life. Dan's going to be out there outside in front of that Forefront Life University banner. And I know for some of you, you're not in small groups, and your temptation is going to be like, I don't see that guy. I'm not going to look at him, because if I make eye contact with him, God's going to make me go over there. He's working on you right now. And you can walk by. I'm never going to pressure anybody to be in a small group. But here's what I do know. If you're open and honest about your life and you're in community with other people in small group, it'll be the best thing you ever had. If you're not being open and honest about your life and you jump into a small group thing, you might feel a rub because things in your life aren't going very well and you're living in hiding with people. But I can tell you, if you begin to open up, things will change in your life when you have unity with God and unity with others, because life connected to life is where God wants the new you. Why don't you pray?